Welcome, Seeker.
What if everything you've been told about ancient knowledge is wrong? What if the secrets of the past aren't hidden in some dusty, forgotten tomb, but are lying in plain sight, waiting to be seen with the right eyes? We live in a world obsessed with lost cities and hidden codes. We imagine ancient knowledge as a single, monolithic truth, a sacred book of answers locked away by time. But what if I told you that's a fantasy? A comforting story we tell ourselves. The real story is far more fascinating. Ancient knowledge isn't a thing to be found. It's not a static set of rules. It's a conversation, a living, breathing, and often contentious dialogue that stretched across continents and centuries. It's a river of thought, fed by countless tributaries, constantly changing course. In this video, we're going to put on a historian's lens and pull back the curtain. We're going to move beyond the myths of secret societies and lost golden ages to uncover what ancient wisdom truly was: a dynamic, practical, and deeply human pursuit of understanding. We'll journey from the philosophical schools of Athens to the royal libraries of Mesopotamia, and we'll discover how the most profound insights from the past can actually be applied to find clarity and purpose in our modern chaotic lives. This isn't about dusty history. It's about the timeless patterns of the human mind. By the end of this, you won't just see ancient knowledge differently. You'll see your own quest for meaning in a whole new light. And if you wish to walk further into these mysteries, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and keep your curiosity alive, for curiosity is the first breath of awakening. So, let's ground this conversation in reality. Historians define ancient knowledge as the systems of understanding, from astronomy and medicine to ethics and metaphysics, developed in the ancient world, roughly from 3000 BCE to around 500 CE. But that dry definition misses the point entirely. The real magic, and what we'll uncover today, is how these systems were lived. This wasn't abstract theory. It was an operating system for the soul. By understanding its origins, you gain a powerful lens to examine any secret or ancient teaching you encounter, separating profound insight from modern fantasy. To truly understand, we have to go to the source, not to a single origin point, but to the vibrant crossroads. Forget the idea of one enlightened civilization. True ancient knowledge was born from collision and exchange. For centuries, the myth of the Greek miracle prevailed, the idea that philosophy sprang, fully formed, from the minds of men like Socrates and Aristotle. But the historical record tells a different story. Greek thinkers openly studied in Egypt, debated with Persian magi, and built upon Babylonian mathematics. Thales, the first Greek philosopher, is said to have brought geometry from Egypt. Pythagoras reportedly studied with Egyptian priests for over 2 decades. This was a global network of ideas, a marketplace of the mind where concepts were traded, adapted, and improved upon along bustling trade routes. This is where we find the crucial philosophical split, the esoteric and the exoteric. These aren't just fancy words. They represent the 2 fundamental ways knowledge was handled. Exoteric knowledge was public, the teachings for the many. It was the public speeches in the Athenian agora, the written laws, the common religious rites. It was meant to maintain social order and provide a basic moral framework. But then there was the esoteric, the teachings for the few. This was the hidden knowledge, reserved for initiated students in schools like Plato's Academy or the mystery cults of Eleusis. Why hide it? It wasn't necessarily about being secretive for its own sake. Often, it was about responsibility. These were dangerous, paradigm-shifting ideas that could be misunderstood or misused by the unprepared. You didn't teach the secrets of the cosmos to someone who hadn't first mastered their own ego. And this is precisely why so much of this core understanding feels lost or misunderstood today. Time, conquest, and the simple fragility of papyrus scrolls did their work. Libraries burned. Languages died. But more insidiously, later institutions often had a vested interest in simplifying or even suppressing these complex, multifaceted traditions, flattening them into a single, authorized story. The vibrant, contested, and living conversation was often buried, leaving behind only fragments and echoes that we now try to piece together. But that act of piecing it together is what we're doing right now. If this journey into the heart of how knowledge was truly preserved and shared resonates with you, then you're in the right place. Consider subscribing to the channel. We're just getting started, and there's so much more to uncover. And I'm curious, what's the biggest mystery about the ancient world that captivates you? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let's dive deeper. So, how did this river of knowledge actually flow? If it wasn't just about great men writing great books, what was the mechanism? Let's shatter another illusion. The myth of the universal library. We romanticize the Library of Alexandria as this perfect repository of all world knowledge. But historians like Luciano Canfora suggest it was far more partisan, less a neutral university, and more a tool of political power, actively gathering texts to assert cultural dominance. The real work of preserving and transmitting knowledge wasn't done in one majestic building. It was a decentralized, human-scale effort. It happened in bustling port cities, in royal courts funding translators, and in the quiet scriptoriums of monasteries, where monks, through endless repetition, became unconscious editors, making tiny changes with every copy. This leads us to the first and most vital engine of knowledge, the oral tradition. Before it was written, it was spoken. And this changes everything. Writing something down freezes it. But speaking it, that requires a living relationship. In ancient India, the Vedas were preserved with astonishing accuracy through elaborate mnemonic chanting techniques for over 1,000 years before they were ever written down. The knowledge wasn't just the words. It was the vibration, the rhythm, the breath used to recite it. It was embodied. In Greece, Socrates famously refused to write anything down at all. He believed true knowledge could only live in the dynamic, questioning space of a dialogue between a teacher and a student, what we now call the Socratic method. The written word, he feared, would make us forgetful, giving the illusion of wisdom without the reality. But of course, writing did happen, and it created a second parallel system. And here's a crucial concept you can use. Think of ancient texts not as finished books, but as snapshots of an ongoing debate. Take the famous emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus and its maxim, as above, so below. We treat it as a timeless, cryptic truth. But a historian sees it as a powerful synthesis, a snapshot of a moment where Egyptian priestly wisdom collided with Greek philosophy and Babylonian astrology. It's not a single author's profound secret. It's a cultural melting pot, distilled into a potent, memorable phrase. These texts were often starting points for discussion, not the final word. A student wouldn't just read Plato's Republic. They would be expected to argue with it, to find its flaws, and to improve upon it. The text was a mentor, not a monument. This is the great paradox of ancient knowledge. It demanded both perfect preservation and constant reinterpretation. It required the stability of a sacred text and the volatility of a living debate. It was a dance between memory and innovation. So the next time you see a quote from an ancient text presented as a simple answer, ask yourself, what was the question that sparked this? What conversation was it a part of? And what might have been lost when the dialogue was frozen into a monologue on a page? Now, if knowledge was this flowing river, who controlled the current? This brings us to the often ignored but critical element, power and politics. Access to knowledge was, and always has been, a form of currency. In ancient Mesopotamia, the art of cuneiform writing was largely confined to a scribal class who served the temple and the palace. They weren't just secretaries. They were the gatekeepers of administrative, economic, and astronomical data, the lifeblood of the state. This wasn't necessarily a sinister conspiracy. It was practical. Complex knowledge systems require specialized training. But the effect was the same. It created a powerful elite defined by their literacy. This pattern repeats everywhere. In ancient Egypt, the priestly class held a monopoly on the complex hieroglyphic script and the sacred rituals it described, directly linking their authority to their exclusive access to the divine knowledge that ensured the Nile would flood and the sun would rise. But here's the fascinating twist. Knowledge has a stubborn tendency to leak. It resists containment. The invention of the Greek alphabet, with its accessible vowels and consonants, was a revolution in democratization. Suddenly, you didn't need a lifetime of priestly training to record your thoughts. This relatively simple technology helped fuel the explosion of philosophy, drama, and history in the classical world. Ideas could spread faster and further. Furthermore, think of the Silk Road. It wasn't just a route for silk and spices. It was the internet of its day, a highway for ideas. Buddhist monks, Zoroastrian traders, and Nestorian Christians all carried their philosophies and theologies along with their goods, creating a vast informal exchange program where beliefs syncretized and evolved in real time. The most profound ideas often traveled incognito, hidden in the baggage of merchants and migrants. So let's apply this to a concrete example. Alchemy. We often think of it as a failed science, just mixing potions in a quest for gold. But through a historian's lens, it reveals itself as something far more profound. The practical exoteric side, the laboratory work with furnaces and alembics, was real. But for many practitioners, it was also a sophisticated metaphor for an esoteric, internal process of psychological and spiritual transformation. The quest to turn lead into gold was a coded narrative for turning the base, chaotic lead of the human soul into the refined, perfect gold of enlightenment. The famous Carl Jung picked up on this centuries later, seeing alchemical symbols as representations of archetypal processes of individuation in the unconscious mind. The secret wasn't a chemical formula. It was a map of the mind disguised as a manual for metallurgy. This brings us to the core of what ancient knowledge really is. It's not a list of answers. It's a collection of tools and frameworks for asking better questions. The Stoics weren't giving you a rule book for life. They were giving you a cognitive toolkit, practices like negative visualization or the dichotomy of control, to train your mind to perceive reality more clearly and respond with virtue. The Neoplatonists, like Plotinus, weren't just building abstract metaphysical systems. They were providing a detailed roadmap of the psyche, with practical contemplative techniques to experience the unity of the One. The power was never in the information itself, but in the transformative process of engaging with it. The text was a catalyst, not a conclusion. The real ancient knowledge was the operating manual for the human experience, written in a language of symbol, story, and practice that we're only now, with the help of history and psychology, beginning to fully decipher. This channel, Labyrinth of the Veiled, is devoted to unveiling these mysteries and walking deeper into the hidden currents of wisdom. If you wish to journey further, subscribe and share your reflections in the comments below. So, what does this mean for you right now today? How do you drink from this river of ancient knowledge without drowning in the past? The answer is both simple and profound. You stop looking for answers and start practicing the questions. These ancient systems weren't meant to be believed. They were meant to be used. Think of them not as dusty museums to visit, but as mental gyms to train in. Your modern life is filled with distractions, anxiety, and endless noise, the exact opposite of the focused, examined life these traditions championed. The practical application is about building what the Stoics called your inner citadel, a core of mental resilience that remains unshaken by external chaos. Let's make this tangible. Take the Stoic practice of the view from above. It's a simple mental exercise. When you're overwhelmed by a problem, a stressful work deadline, a personal conflict, you pause. You close your eyes and you imagine pulling your perspective back, up out of the room, above your city, until you see the entire continent, then the planet, a pale blue dot hanging in the vast blackness of space. From there, your problem doesn't disappear, but it's put into its proper, humble perspective. This isn't about avoiding your feelings. It's about recalibrating your perspective to reduce suffering. It's a direct, actionable technique you can use in 5 minutes to drain the anxiety from any situation. This is the exoteric side, a practical tool. Now let's connect it to the esoteric, deeper layer. That same view from above exercise is a micro-practice of the Hermetic principle, as above, so below. By consciously aligning your small, individual perspective, the below, with a vast, cosmic one, the above, you are quite literally performing an alchemical operation on your own consciousness. You are turning the lead of your petty worry into the gold of serene understanding. You are not just reading about a philosophy. You are doing it. This is how you move beyond theory. You don't need to believe in the literal Greek cosmos to benefit from the psychological truth of the exercise. The obstacle is the path. Your daily stress, your frustrations, your challenges. These are not things to be avoided. They are the raw materials, the lead, for your own practice of transformation. The biggest pitfall is thinking this is a quick fix or a passive activity. This isn't about listening to a quote and feeling inspired for 5 minutes. It's about active, daily engagement. The obstacle is starting. So here's your first practical takeaway. Try Stoic journaling. Tonight, before bed, take 5 minutes and ask yourself 2 questions that the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius asked himself. What bad habit did I curb today? And how can I improve tomorrow? That's it. You are now participating in a 2,000-year-old tradition of self-examination. You are not just learning about ancient knowledge. You are weaving its thread into the fabric of your own life. So, what is ancient knowledge, really? It's not a sealed treasure chest waiting to be found. It's a living conversation, a river of wisdom that has flowed through centuries, fed by countless streams of human experience. It's a dynamic process of questioning, practicing, and transforming. From the Stoics' mental gym to the alchemist's symbolic journey, these were never about possessing secret answers, but about undertaking a personal expedition to understand the deepest questions of what it means to be human. The true secret they guarded was that the power was never lost. It was always within the methodology itself, waiting for anyone willing to pick up the tools and begin the work. This changes everything. It means you don't need to go searching for a lost ancient secret. The most valuable knowledge, the kind that brings clarity, resilience, and purpose, is available to you right now in the way you choose to engage with your own mind and your world. It's in the daily practice of perspective, the journaling, the conscious effort to turn your challenges into your raw material. The ancients weren't a different species. They were people who dedicated themselves to figuring out the art of living. And that art is your inheritance. Now, I want to hear from you. This isn't a one-way street. It's a dialogue, just like the ancients intended. So let's start one. In the comments below, I want you to tell me this. What's the one thing from the ancient world, a philosophy, a practice, a historical figure that you've always been curious about but found too intimidating to start learning? If this conversation sparked something in you, if you're ready to go deeper, then hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps us grow and continue making this content. Remember, the most ancient knowledge of all is the knowledge of yourself. Keep seeking.